vision to go to Japan. This time, Gabe Bernald, come on up here. Gabe joined our church last year. He's from Richardson, grew up in First Baptist Richardson, and but he's part of our ministry now, helps in our children's ministry, and feels called to go to England. He's going to share all about it. We appreciate you being here tonight, Gabe.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. First of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you for giving me this opportunity to come up here. I love the opportunity to get to share about what's going on in England and London in particular in my ministry. I could talk about it all day long, like Matt over there said, and so thank you for giving me this chance to come up here. First, I want to tell you all a little bit about my love for England, where that came from. Then I kind of want to tell you some needs, and then what my vision is for going forward. Many of you may notice that I wear two of these bands. One of them is an I Am Second band, which some of you all may know, which is a video ministry where they help people learn about what it means to put God first. Even though I would say I Am Third is more aptly, I Am Second is for people who don't even put anybody else first. And so it's a way to do that. But I have this red one that I wear all the time. And it reminds me of the first time that I went to England. There was this boy that I met. And so the first time I went was in summer of 2010. And I led a group of teenagers out there to lead in what they call a holiday club. For us here in America, it's like a VBS. It was this two-week long thing that they did, and it was in this beautiful beach town called Venice Bay. I loved it. I did that for 3 summers. I led some teenagers doing that. But the first year that I went was the summer of 2010, and there was this boy there, this little Irish boy named Seamus, and he was an awful kid. The thing he was describing about fifth and sixth graders, that's tame compared to what this kid was. He riled everybody up. He was an instigator. He just wanted to cause problems. He didn't want to be here. His mother made him go. About halfway through the week, though, he noticed that I was wearing this band. And this band says "Got Love" on it. And "Got Love" is First Richardson, when they did their mission thing about 10 years ago, it was kind of the theme that they used. And so he asked me, what does that mean? What does "Got Love" mean? And so I used that opportunity to tell him what that means, that, God is about love. God is love. And that you being here, I love you, even though you act up and do this, I love you because that's what God says. God says to love you no matter what. Love our enemies, love our friends, love our neighbors, love everybody. And I got to share with him a little bit about all that. And he thought about it for a second. He goes, really? You love me even though I'm awful to you? He goes, absolutely. And so he asked if he could have it. So I said, sure. I gave it to him. Later that afternoon, during this holiday club, we have this park that all the groups come to, all ages. It's like 4 years old to high school age. And they went out there, and he was out there, and he showed me, he had it on his ankle. He put it was too big for his hand, and so he put it on his ankle. And the rest of the 2 weeks I was there, he was a completely different person. He was actually putting the other kids in line to be quiet, listen, and he was participating in everything. And it was just one of those things that I fell in love with England at that point, and I fell in love with ministering to people over there because a lot of them, they've never even heard the gospel. They've never even heard stuff like that. It wasn't for another 4 years, though, that I began pursuing missions, and I connected with Greater Europe Mission. We call it GEM. And I served with the church plant there for 4 months, just outside of a city called Birmingham. And a couple months after I returned that mission, I was appointed by GEM to go long-term. So that's the process that I am in right now. So the question is, why England? A lot of people have kind of forgotten about England and Europe in general, about what's going on in England. But England, in particular, London, people from all over the world come to England, especially London. London is this central point where people from Africa, Asia, Middle East, Americas, they all come there and they study, they conduct business, and sometimes they move there because maybe it's not America they want to go to, it's the British dream they want to live. They want to go to England. And so it's this opportunity that all these people, it's this giant cosmopolitan melting pot of people that come to England, to London in particular, that we can go and serve. And a lot of these people might be from closed countries that we can't go to, places in Africa and the Middle East, but they're in England, and we don't have any fear of the government coming after us in there. So it's a great opportunity to come and serve there. Oops. One one of my favorite quotes up here about London is because I kind of feel the exact same way about it. Samuel Johnson said, when a man is tired of London, he's tired of life. And that's sentiment that really rings true today. Like I said, there are so many people that come to England and serve and live. To me, it's the most beautiful city in the world. I love going to it every opportunity. I just love seeing all the sights, all the people, just seeing all the great stuff that's happening there. And it's also a leading center of culture, and it also has a really rich heritage of church history. St. Paul's Cathedral, Westminster Abbey. There's even a church that's about 2 city blocks from the Tower of London called Southwark's Cathedral. It was a Church of England that was built and has been worshiping there in that location, not necessarily that building, but that location since 1106. And so there's this history of church that is so ingrained that they're not only these beautiful churches, but it's rooted in the history of England itself. You know, all the royal weddings, all the coronations of the kings and queens, they all happen at Westminster Abbey. St. Paul's Cathedral used to be the tallest building in the world when it was built. But the problem is that's not England's story anymore. That's not what it's like. And the people who are from closed countries, like I mentioned, they're not the only ones who need to be reached anymore. According to the 2011 UK census, 23% claim to be non-religious. This number I got right up here, 49%, that was from 2015. It's a study called the British Social Attitudes Survey. And that number jumped that much. And so what a lot of people are starting to understand is it goes from 23% to 49%. And so they're starting to see that there's just a lot of people now that are just dropping the pretext that they're Christian. There's a lot of people that claim they were Christian, even though you see only 6% attend church, but still 23% still were not associated with religion. But now that number is big, and now they're saying the number might even be as high as 60 or 70%. And that all these people, the church is in decline. And overall, 2% consider themselves born-again Christian. According to the numbers that Matt gave you, how they identify unreached people group, England's becoming an unreached people group. 2% identify as born-again Christians, and there's even parts of the country that it's even less than 1%. And then the average size of the congregation, that's sort of a misleading stat, and I bring that up because the largest church in England is an African church that's 20,000. But there was this church I went to when I was doing a vision tour. It's in this beautiful medieval market town called Shrewsbury. And the name of the church was St. Chad's. And they had this evensong service. It's similar to a Wednesday night service, except depending on the church, they might have it multiple times a week. I went there with several other people, and we go in, and the only person in there was the guy playing the organ. Nobody was there to attend service. And so the largest church is 20,000, and that church had 0 or 1, let's say. The average is still 10,000 people. And so that number, it takes several churches to bring down a church like that African church to 84. I did the math earlier, and it was like 9 churches that are less than that number to bring that number all the way down. But this has kind of created this really interesting culture of religion in England, because that decline kind of started about 20, 30 years ago. I've heard kind of different stories about what exactly happened and what different people think happened. The most consistent story I've heard is the Church of England became very legalistic, and that turned off a lot of people, and a lot of people ran away from the church. They didn't just stop going, they ran away. And because, you have to do this, you have to do that, and all these rules and regulations that just got poured on them. They're just like, I'm done. This is what God's about. I don't want to be a part of it. But that was about, like I said, 20, 30 years ago, and now their kids are growing up. Their parents never went to church. Their parents don't talk about church. Their parents don't talk about God. And so they're in this situation where these kids that are about 20-ish years old, they've grown up in this pre-Christian culture. There's this girl that I met when I was over there for 4 months in 2015. Her name's Lucy, and she was part of the youth group in this church I went to. She wasn't a Christian at the time. She is now, but at the time she wasn't. And we had this conversation about heaven and hell, what is heaven and hell, and all that stuff. And it's a very deep conversation, especially for a bunch of teenagers. And I saw that she really wasn't engaging, even though she normally does. And so I kind of came up to her afterwards and I asked her about it. And I'd asked her what she thought about heaven. And she told me, I don't think I want to go to heaven because I don't think I can live up to God's expectations there.
Oh, how sad.
She doesn't even understand the basics of something as simple as heaven and hell. And so I kind of used that opportunity to kind of talk to her, and it was a several week-long conversation I had with her where we did this. And like I said, now, since I've left, she's a Christian now, and when I saw her again, when I went back for my vision tour, got to talk with her and all that stuff, and she's doing fantastic. But it just shows the culture that is they're in this pre-Christian culture where they don't know anything about the Bible, they don't know anything about God, they don't know anything about Jesus. And so we need to take that opportunity. There's all these young people where they feel the same way, where how I usually kind of attribute to is what the average person here in America knows about Dalai Lama and Buddhism is what they know about Christianity and Jesus. They may know who he is, they know a few stories here, but other than that, they don't know anything. And so that's a really great opportunity. But just as important as the needs of the church reaching out to other people and teaching the gospel is the needs of the people specifically. In a recent study, England was dubbed the loneliness capital of Europe. According to the study, that overall British are less likely to know their neighbors or even have a strong friendship than in any other country in Europe. Many even claim, this number has been as high as 40% from what I've seen. They even claim that they don't even have anybody they can rely on if they have a serious problem. Also, according to statistics, the leading cause of death, people under the age of 50, is suicide.